Well, all times are approximate. It is close enough to 8:35 this morning. We'll call the weekly meeting of the Mitchell County Board of Supervisors to order. We have an agenda in front of us. Any additions or corrections?
I have none. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Did you add something?
Like, what was it, man?
Oh, the
Oh,
the audit report.
Yeah, the audit for landfill. And you might as well add the one from, wherever this outfit is. What Iowa Central Regional Emergency Planning District.
Oh, yeah, you're right, yeah, you filled in for me last
So
time.
this is the Council of Governments, it says.
Oh, that's my card.
My card.
Whichever one it was.
Okay.
There's another one.
Want to add those on,
Yeah.
like the C
Well,
or
just,
whatever?
Audits. Items of no vote.
Audits. Okay.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Been moved and second to approve the agenda. Further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. County Attorney General discussion, County Attorney budget.
Questions for me?
I don't even have it.
Oh, I forgot to bring them. I thought of county care, but it didn't.
Yeah, I provided them a couple of weeks ago, you guys looked them over, and you said, make sure you provide, 4 or 5 copies. The only real change, well, there's 2 changes, and I attached an explanation as to both of those. One is copying fees, and I increased our copying fees because what happens, it used to be police officer would bring in a report. Well, now they send us an email, and we have to print everything off. Sheriff's Department, everything's email anymore. So and the worst are Department of Human Services and juvenile, because those reports are 30, 40 pages long, and we'll have 8 hearings in one day, and we're supposed to make a copy for us and a copy for the judge, so everything, and I'm sure, you get it too. When we used to get a contract sent to you, now everything's emailed to you. So I increased our cost for that. What I did was, I think I said, I just took an average of so many pages per day, 5 days a week, and I said, I know it's probably more than that. The other thing I increased was our legal research material, because we have Westlaw, and I don't know if you guys know what Westlaw is, but that's what everybody uses for legal research. I would say 90% of the time I spend on Westlaw is accounting stuff, either county attorney opinions or attorney general opinions, research, stuff like that. Or mostly civil stuff. I asked Aaron what percentage of his was spent on there, doing county stuff, criminal stuff. And I think we said, okay, look, we know we're over 2/3, but we'll say 2/3 is county, and so that's what we charge there. Other than that, it was the increase in the salary, increase in the insurance, and I think I took 2 or 3% increase, 2% on everything else. And I'm not one of those guys that gets to the end of the year, oh, guys have to spend it. In there, I just leave it in there. So.
Lowell, you're going to have to watch the video to get his discussion on the budget.
Nope.
Ever highlighted ones are the only ones that's increased.
Well, the other ones I increased
Other than
by 2%, but
right.
those were the big increases, the ones that are highlighted. Yes.
Dave Randall.
And that inquest and investigations, that may have just been a one-time thing that we did last year when we hired that guy on the roads. I'm hoping with Greg now as the sheriff, we can talk him into sending a car out, on those roads on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday or something. he seems receptive to it, so when I've talked to him about it, whether it'll pan out or not, who knows, but he at least
Get
said,
2 books with him.
he said he's willing to send a car out there on those days. That's all I have.
Okay, and approval of the Cedar River Complex rental agreement?
That's the one where we, I think Joel did most of this negotiating, didn't you? You and Scott, or Scott?
Scott.
Scott did.
I wasn't getting anywhere with them,
Yeah,
and
and this really doesn't,
I don't think they understood exactly what we were asking.
yeah, this doesn't really set forth very accurately what we wanted to do, because we booked so many dates per year, but then if we cancel them ahead of time, we only have to pay $50 rather than
Right.
what the fee was, and, you know, I just,
They are working with us, I'll say that.
yeah, and it's just, it's not very clear when you look at this contract that, hey, this is what we agreed to. I mean, I cannot read this and get out of it what we actually agreed to.
Well, this,
Can you?
well, you know, we're getting the conference room and the green room. And then, if you got the one like I've had with all the dates,
Yep.
well then, they're renting them for all these dates.
Yep.
Except for the ones in parentheses, it's the ones that
Mhm.
somebody else has already rented.
Yep.
And so they will give them, so these are the court dates for Mitchell County,
Yep.
criminal court. If they don't have anything, then they cancel, and that's what it costs.
And I think we have to pay $50.
Right, you get a $50 canceling fee.
Yep.
But if we need them, then we also get them for, I think it's like $150 a room or something like that. But the biggest thing was that they didn't want to necessarily, you know, if you rented them, you know, they
Yeah.
wanted their money, but then I think he kind of explained to them what we, you know, this may or may not. And the other reason for this is that they wanted to be able to show that they could still have criminal court in Mitchell County,
Right.
rather than have to bus people to different counties, that they went to pick a jury,
They want $100 deposit
and they need a $100 deposit
for the year.
for the year. Which, I don't know, they asked for a credit card. Oh, then there was something about a credit card in case somebody busts the place up.
Credit card number on file for coverage in case damages.
Does the county have a credit card? Yeah. I suppose you better give them the county credit card. We're not gonna have a problem.
No, I don't think so. Just,
Well, like I said, I'm pretty sure I know what was agreed to, and when I read through this, I really don't see that. It says that, but, you know, I think everybody understands what's agreed to. But if you look at this contract, you can't get it out of there.
well, I'm sure this is just their,
It's what everybody's going to. One contract fits every situation, and we won't change them because it's our contract. But kind of like those architect contracts. These are our contracts. And one contract fits every situation.
You can treat everybody the same.
What's your recommendation?
I'm not thrilled with it, but I think I'm okay with it. I don't think we're gonna have a
Well,
problem.
I
Because we've got enough emails back and forth that say, okay, this is what we're agreeing to. It's just that this contract doesn't do a very good job of setting it forth. I don't have a problem with signing it.
well, I'd make a motion to allow the chair to sign the contract with the CRC for the criminal court.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll by the
Aye.
Walk, motion carried.
On that same subject, we are working on those conference rooms.
I saw those emails going back and forth.
Well, we can, I don't know if I can bring it up, we can have about as much room as we want up there. Sounds like, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
they'll work with us on all that, so.
Go down at the Fox River.
But there'll be a drawing going out to everybody, and I'll copy everybody, and anybody's got any changes or whatevers, we're for the building.
Basically, as long as it's got 4 walls and a door,
they wanted sound proofing and then I asked, I said, well, we're gonna need any IT or telephone plugins and stuff like that, or outlets,
4 walls and a door.
2 chairs and a table.
That's enough.
All
Yep.
right.
It's gonna be better than what they've got now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're not gonna, in my opinion, you don't need to spend any money running cable, internet hookups, any of that.
So we'll have to have them sprinkled, so we have the sprinklers we'll have to put in and.
Yep.
Use a bucket of water by the door, I suppose.
It's better than what's there.
You're right.
Yep. And it's not perfect, it's good enough for now, yep.
Well, Mark, you have anything?
Yes, the only thing, I'm gonna be gone next Tuesday. I'm looking at this contract for private development. This one that's gonna be up next Tuesday. I haven't got a chance to get, I think Kathy drafted this, didn't she, Showalter?
I think so.
On page 9, you guys probably don't have it, but I'll just pass it on. There's a typographic error there, and I'm gonna call her on that, because I don't know if anybody's caught it yet. Because that's got to be changed, it's the wrong amount that's in there. Other than that, you know, it's a standard agreement, you know, for private development with a, you know, urban renewal / TIP, so. I'm sure this is just a form that they brought up, and it's one of them they missed typing in the correct dollar amount. Oh, just, Rhodey called Mark Ross and he called me yesterday, and
He
he
stopped in my office.
Okay.
That's why I'm here while you were still
Okay,
here.
and he's interested in getting those vehicles back, and what we've told him is you've got to get them licensed, you've got to get the towing fees, and then we'll return them to you, but not until then, so that's where we are on those.
My question to you is, he stopped in my office yesterday and wanted to get some things out of the vehicles, and I didn't know whether we allow that or not. I figured, well, I called Lowell, and we did let him go. He had to get some tools in it that he wanted to use, that were his tools, and after making a few phone calls, I didn't know whether we were able to. I kind of feel like I'm in the middle, but
Yeah,
he did go out and grab some tools.
no, that was,
Are we gonna make them come and get them, or are we gonna have to deliver them?
he's gonna come and get them, because we're not gonna pay the towing fee
Okay.
back, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mark said this morning he didn't call him yesterday.
Okay, well, I gave him the number, and
Yeah, Mark,
Said it-
he did call Mark.
he called him. Did he call him in the afternoon?
Well, he was just in this morning and said he never called him in the afternoon.
Yeah, what he said, me too.
Because when I told him when I was talking with you, he said call him in 2 hours because he was out.
And I
He
said,
never did
I
call
gave him the number and said he'd call him in a couple hours.
Well,
if
maybe
he had a
he'll call him
question.
today.
Well, did he talk to him or not? Because Mark said he called him. When I talked to him yesterday afternoon, he said he called him. I don't know, maybe just.
That's what he just said
Maybe
this
he said he
morning.
talked to him, and I just assumed that meant he called him, but he said he talked to him.
Did anybody happen to ask him or talk to him about the concerns of rodents in that trailer?
Because I don't know they're in there. Until I get a report that says they're in there, all I get is rumors. And somebody wants to sign their name and put their name on something, that's different.
Go up there after snow and there'd be little feet and then there'd be a line that goes. That's rad.
If there's not food, they usually won't be in there. If they can nest in there, they will. It's, in that fiberglass and build a nice little cozy place for the winter.
Mark says it's kind of an ordeal to go through to take these cars.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Well, then wouldn't we be better off just citing these people?
But they won't do anything. That's the problem.
No, they're gonna pay a fine about so many times, won't they?
Yeah, in the future, well, like I told Mark, next time it'll be easy, because we'll know how to do it. It's time consuming, you have to give so much notice, and the EOT has to get involved, because you don't have the titles.
Something like if we sell them, the money goes to DOT.
No, yeah, if we sell them and there's a like I said, if you had a $400 or $500 car that you wanted to sell, just park it on Main Street, leave it parked, eventually they'll tow it, and then you're limited to how much you can pay, charge for towing, you're limited to how much you can charge a day for storage, and then anything over it, you can't charge your attorney's fees, and then anything left goes back to the person who owns the car. They said, yeah, that's the way to sell a cheap car, is just put it out on Main Street and don't move it. Because then the county or the city will impound it, and then they've got to go through all the work of selling it, and they've got to give you the money.
Crazy. Yeah,
And they're at it again down there, I hear.
yeah, they're at it again.
So hopefully he comes and gets them.
Anything else for the county attorney?
Anything right now?
Did you look at those trees in the ditch? Yeah, we didn't put them in Heartlands. Whoever did the power lines.
I'll give Mark a call.
Well, I don't know how long they've been there, he's been there for a while. We wouldn't.
5 months, 6 months.
Yeah, we wouldn't have done that around power lines.
Anything else?
I don't have anything more.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, you bet.
As far as the county engineer is here, can we just move right down to the county engineer?
Might as well.
I just only wanted to come and talk to Mark, but wanted to catch him about that yesterday, so. Be brief, we did, get Highway Truck Products brought that service truck to us last week, and we looked it over. There's some things they're gonna fix. They're gonna do a handful of things to it before they sell it to us, so I emailed them yesterday and said, we're very interested, I think we're gonna buy it from you, what kind of things you need from us, so they've got, they're gonna blast the box, sandblast the rust in the box and paint the box. They're gonna put a spray and liner in the box that was there already. They've got some solenoids to fix on the crane. They're gonna put a new dash in it, fix the seat, fix some, just some small little piddly things, but they were gonna warranty the vehicle when they were done for a year, other than motor and transmission. You can't really, but all the hydraulics, yeah, the compressors, the cranes, and all that stuff, they were gonna warranty that for a year. Well, that's not a bad deal for $16,000, so we're gonna go ahead and grab that one we can.
Good.
So,
Did you have some excitement for a fire the other night?
yeah. Actually, it was actually more towards Stacy than,
There was.
it was on the little Cedar Bridge just over by, is it Ocean? The one a mile, there was a mile east of Monument. That big bridge,
Sure.
they went off that, or they crashed into that water,
Wow.
into that ice. I thought it was further towards Meyer and the curves, but it was, they're lucky. I went out yesterday to look at it. Yeah, it's Minnesota's road, Minnesota's bridge, there's no guardrail, and they went right off, and their, what appeared to me, it looked like their left front tire.
They're on the
hit
state
wing wall.
line with street.
Yeah. Looked like their left front tire hit the wing wall, and they're lucky. I mean, had it been summer and more water in the river, they, I don't know. Scary, but yeah, it was good, everybody's alive.
Good.
So, we'll probably be out doing some more brush cutting now that a lot of snow's gone, so we'll be continuing on that. I'm gonna put that concept statement in for Hickory Avenue today, so we can get the process going with submittal on plans, set it up for July letting, so that's where we're at with that program. I got a letter here from a company out of Cedar Falls. And I'll talk to Barb about this. It's for a GPS network. We've got our county, Worth and Mitchell both, but we've been flown. We've got USGS points in our right of way. And it's my understanding there's some adjustments that could be done to make them coincide with the Iowa real-time network. And I'm not familiar with what all that is, but they've got a contractor. I'll let you guys look at this. It's a proposal to update our information to make it more current. It's more of a GIS thing, but they sent it to me. So, I don't know if I should talk to Barb about it. Maybe she's got the letter too, I don't know. I think they were sending it to most of the engineers.
I don't know, she's talking about a flyover, partial or something like that. I know she's been talking with Jerry, and I think the city's been interested in doing something too. I don't know if that's got anything to do with that.
Well, they use those, well, they did when they first, you know, I don't remember when we did this here, it wasn't when I was here, but they set these monuments in every, I think they were 2 mile or 3 mile sections, and marked them and flew them. and we used radar to get the elevations. I think that's where a lot of our LiDAR data comes from, is when they flew those locations, they knew what the elevation of that point was, and they based it all off of that. Now there's some adjustments or something. They were talking about, they brought it up at the county engineers conference in their booth, but they said they were gonna be sending letters out, so I thought.
How accurate is those?
The LiDAR, those, they're supposed to be,
No, but I mean, the radar and all that, I've always heard that Earth is always
well,
in different places it's moving.
and these monuments, they're buried so that frost shouldn't affect them. But they're very accurate, I mean, accurate enough for survey, so. But I'll take that to Barb and we can have a discussion, and then she can bring it to your guys' attention, what maybe you may want to be done with that, so.
They've already signed their contracts.
Yeah, they're ready to go.
Optimistic,
Yeah,
aren't they?
I guess, well, they wanna avoid the shuffle. And what Mark just brought up, there's some brush along T-38 south of Osage here on the east side of the road, there's piles, and I think that was the utility companies, they were trimming trees and never picked the piles up, so.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah, tell Merlin, thanks for sanding our parking lot.
Oh, okay.
And you tell him the day's probably gonna, if we need it again, alright, he calls.
Yeah, I guess we just wanna have some notice.
Well, yeah, when it's icy.
Yeah, I know, are you, well, just call us, yeah.
Well, I talked to Colby yesterday, and I said, well, I didn't figure you want us in there with the motor grader scraping that up.
Well, no.
You know, because who knows what else you'd pull up. And so that morning when we did call, I mean, this was just that thick ice all over out here.
Did we throw salt down with the sand, or just saying, okay?
And the next day it got warm enough and it rained, and now it's all gone, but you don't know what we're gonna get again. We have a lot more traffic out here, and, you know, there's
The
more people.
snowpack.
Yep, more people were just interested in this area and the north that we have. Can bring his tractor and manure loader in and try the rest of it on his own, but,
Just call us, I guess.
yeah. But it really worked well. Now
All right.
we need another mile of road to do.
That will be high priority.
Well, you're right next door.
I know, yeah, of course we are. I guess I just got one other question. What do you wanna do with Title VI? You want me just to take care of it?
What do you mean, take care of it?
Well, we need somebody and nobody's volunteering.
Just sign the damn thing and send it in, tell them we'll comply with everything it
We'll
says.
just have a
Is there gonna-
one-page policy.
It's whatever they've got. We just need we need the person. And I guess I'll volunteer for.
Who's doing it over in Worth County? Wow.
Yours
I guess we're gonna share, right?
Yours truly, yeah.
I guess I'll volunteer to do it.
If it gets to be a
In
lot,
interim.
I would pass it off to the secretary, I don't care, I mean,
I just wanna get it done so we don't end up dealing with this when we need to get the money.
right,
So,
we want it in place, but I find that all too often that, well, it ain't my job, well, it ain't my job. I wasn't hired to do that.
really shouldn't be an issue.
Right. It's the tail wagging the dog.
I'll just get it taken care of.
Okay, anything
All right.
else for Rich? All right, thank you.
I was expecting you to be driving bus today, we threw you a curveball.
Well,
Colin wanted to ride, so.
I got fired yesterday. What? Got fired yesterday.
That ain't good.
Well, what happened was apparently on the 3rd of January, why the flashers didn't go on. I mean, it must have been my error. And nobody was even close to being hurt, injured, or anything else, but the superintendent said that that is just such a terrible thing that we gotta, never mind. It happened the 3rd of January, they kept letting me drive, even put me on a special trip and this and that, you know, so it was really
Huh. Just because the flashers did it.
well,
I don't know anything about that, but.
and on those buses, why, on bus 4, That's in the doorways. If you're over 45 miles an hour, they won't go on.
Oh.
But, no, I think there's more to it than just,
Yeah,
but as
I
long as
think-
you mention it, that's what happened.
I was just curious. I was like,
Sorry, yeah.
I was gonna open the window and say, hey, Colin's riding the bus today,
So
sorry for
who's
the
driving
curveball. Who's the janitor,
Yeah, Neil?
yeah. So, I was just curious. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring it up.
No, that's all right.
Take care.
Find out sooner or later.
So that makes it-
So you can highlight that one. Minutes.
I read them, I thought they were okay. Although I wasn't here, so. I guess
I'll make a motion.
I shouldn't really say anything about them, I guess.
Second. Been moved and second to approve the minutes. Further discussion. Hearing none, vote Andrew.
Aye.
Walk, aye, Morel.
You can approve them anyway.
You can approve them or abstain or.
Okay, I'll okay them, because I read them, I thought they were fine.
Motion carried. Place $1,548.96 in the land acquisition and capital improvement fund.
That's Mitchell Dam repair reimbursement from the Mitchell Mill Hydro.
Mitchell Dam repair reimbursement. I thought they were doing repairs on the dam.
Yeah, I think so, they've got.
Why are we taking money from the dam and putting it in land acquisition when we got bills coming in for fixing the dam?
I think there's quite a bit different parts of that land acquisition. It's just not just land, there's.
Well, capital improvement would be
Mhm.
repairing the dam, and
Yeah.
it really isn't the land acquisition, it's, you know.
It
that's
just goes into that fund,
And
which
capital.
has a
And
lot,
capital. All right, I'm
kind
sorry.
of a catch-all.
Missed that.
I'll
Yeah.
make a motion to approve placing that money into the land acquisition and capital improvement fund.
I'll second that.
Been moved and second, further discussion. Hearing none, Morel.
Aye.
Hoaglander.
Aye.
Walk, aye, motion carried. At 9:25, we'll have a joint call to Chickasaw. We'll drop down meetings attended. I had last night, I had NICOG. And basically, there's really only one thing on the agenda, and that was going from the $1 to $1.50 on transit. And basically, if we voted to approve of that, if we wouldn't have, we were gonna have to start cutting services. And part of what transpired is in the last decade, population here in the COG area went down by 7%, but ridership remained steady. So what that's really explaining is that there are more people now needing the services of the COG. Basically, the federal government is cutting back on the amount of money that they're putting into the process. We could go ahead and raise fees, but then it cuts down on the ridership, which then we get $2 per ride from the state. And so if we raise it a quarter, and yet again we lose that $2, it doesn't, it's just kind of a bad situation.
Another game.
They haven't raised it for how many years?
Since 2008, I think it was.
Wasn't much of a raise that year then, was it?
No.
I was gonna say,
And,
I remember forget.
and of course, part of the problem is too then that we got these buses that Ford Motor Company, those ones on the stimulus, I think there was 24 of them, 22 of them. The motors are a piece of junk. And so we've had issues, they've had a class action lawsuit. So in any event, they've extended the warranties, but that still doesn't help, and the whole thing, it's just a mess, is what we got.
20 times 24.
Yeah.
Jeez.
If the stimulus come out here, we can get rid of these.
Yeah. Well, I had landfill last Tuesday night. We had our audit and organizational meeting, and this is the audit from the landfill. Well, you can have a copy and note it in the minutes. Then I sat in for Bob at the NCREPDC.
North Central Regional Emergency Response Commission. Well, it took me 6 years to memorize that, but I got her now.
Anyway, and basically what that was is they had a roll call, approved the minutes, and then the new officers are Bridget Edson. I think that was what he's, Edson and Mark Hunfield, vice chair. And then some Andy was,
Yeah, they must be new on the board.
I don't know. And then the next meeting right following that was the NCRERC commission, and that was basically the same, the chairs, and it was just an organizational meeting, because there wasn't much else going on. And there was some workshops, I don't know if that, both these were at the same time, so I don't know. Oh, then here's somebody's budget.
So for time 21 then for Stan?
That time 21 budget doesn't even say. I just put it all together. These were both at the same place, one followed the others, so when you're new on the board, it's really hard to keep up. And this is a draft budget. Here's the draft budget.
I don't think this is,
That looks like.
No, this is 65 cents per capita based on 2010 census.
That's North Central Regional Emergency
All right,
Response.
there you go. Here's the other one, and this is the workshop for Lynn County Emergency Operations Center. I suppose that same thing. And this is North Central Regional Emergency Response Commission. There's some kind of a finance sheet or something. And then the other one I went to was the NICOG, and they had their, was that their budget, Larry Pump?
yeah. You went to the T21 then?
T21.
Yeah.
Or was this on the other one? That was the Council of Governments. There we go, you can note that one too, and then here's your, and we approved most all that, and
Okay.
you're still vice chair. Tried to get you into the chair, but
Oh, no.
Bertol didn't want to give up.
Don't ever do that.
Everybody didn't want to surrender,
He's a character though when he runs a meeting.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I was just sitting there and.
Boatlander from,
Second.
okay, thank you.
There you go.
Just wave at him.
Last night I had the FMC Early Childhood Iowa meeting in Charles City at the library. Charles City Press was there with a photographer to shoot the pictures of the new members. Steve Gertz replaced Virgil Picard from Chickasaw County. And of course, Crystal Weiniger from Economic Development here is taking up the business position on the board for the Early Childhood Iowa Board. I'm the new chairman because Virgil Picard was the former chair and I was vice chair. And Virgil did not get reelected. We went over some of the financials and some of the contract and grant updates. Then around 7 o'clock we had a Mark Hewen as part of the professional board development part of the program had a report on service animals for autistic children, which I just thought was fantastic. I never heard of this or that or the other. He had a friend of his that has a dog too. I didn't realize that this was one of the things that Mark worked on down in Des Moines when he was a state representative. And 1 in 88 children are now diagnosed autistic, and they have service dogs. You know, you think of service dogs and you think they're for blind people or this, that, and the other, but the autistic children, and Mark has a grandson who is autistic, and so they've been working quite close with it. There's a chapter, I think it's called Retreating Freedom, down in Waverly, and they found a dog. That these dogs have to go through extensive training. They actually are tethered to the child when they're outside and things like that, so the child doesn't have any fear of running into a cornfield or onto the highway or something. So the dog will just sit down and keep them from doing that. And so these dogs go through a lot of training.
Very expensive.
Very expensive. This one costs $9,000 for their grandson. And
I know with the training with the lions, that for sight, it's like $40,000.
oh, I bet for a blind, even more.
Is there any grants available?
Well, each of the Lions clubs kind of contribute towards that a little bit. So it's out of Rochester, Michigan.
And a young man who has came in with his service dog, and this young man is started having seizures later in life, and the dog that he has can detect seizures up to 2 hours before he has them. And I thought, wow, that is something. And this guy could not even, I guess he does some work for Mark on the farm and stuff now, but he could not even be allowed to drive if he did not have this dog with him, because the dog can detect the odor in his body. If he's getting near the chemical changes in his body, the dog can detect that up to 2 hours ahead. And if he wouldn't have that, he would go into a grand mal seizure, and this would be disaster. So, and the dog has a vest, a special vest that he wears, and when he has that on, he knows that he's on duty. And this young individual is working with trying to get all the businesses to understand that it's not just blind people that need a service dog, and to allow these dogs into their establishments. So that was very interesting. And then, of course, we had program updates from all of the, I shouldn't say all, but several of the providers that provide for 0 to 5-year-olds. And that was my meeting last night. It's the only one I had. Joel filled in for my other ones last week.
Oh, and it was good. Bodensteiner showed up last night.
Good.
And we needed him to make decorum. I mean, that's why.
Oh, that's important.
Yeah, it's important to do those. Next week at 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, I'm on this audit committee thing for North Iowa Community Action. So I don't know if I would slip out earlier, we get the main business done or whatever.
Sure.
But I'll have to mention to them, and I could probably just email them and tell them, in the future, if you want me on this audit committee, then we're not meeting on Tuesday mornings, you know. But anyway, I don't know what we have on next week.
We have a public hearing.
9 o'clock.
But I
Public
don't
hearing
have
for-
to, it don't take that long to get there. I could leave it, say like after 9:15 or 9:20, and
Yeah.
probably still get there in time for
And
the
I don't
coffee.
foresee any problem with the public hearing on the farmer's feed and grain.
Okay. Well, I may email them anyway, maybe they'll change it, so. But I just wanted to mention it to you guys this morning.
Sure. Any other meetings?
That was it for me.
Clerk of court report. So noted.
And then the audits I've already handed them out, so that's done.
Okay, let's see, 10 after. 9:25, we have to have a joint meeting with Chickasaw. We'll have to go in the other room in order to make a phone call. It's just to buy a laptop computer.
That's this one here, right?
Yes.
$828.50.
She come this afternoon for our visit.
This morning, I think.
Yeah, she had sent out an email a while back to the executive committee and Rick and myself.
Yeah, I think there was one laptop, now there's another one, so.
Was this another one after that one?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, what do you do?
So we'll stand in recess until 9:25. At 9:25, we'll go in the other room and on the speakerphone, and anybody else is welcome to sneak in there or however you fit. And Joel Volklander, Bob Morrell, myself, Stan Watts, Auditor Lowell Tesh is here, and Sheila is here, and two members of the public.
On the Chickasaw side, we have John Anderson, Jason Burns, Steve Gersh, Auditor Joni Knoll, and myself, Rick Holthouse. Tim Zoll is absent, won't be showing up till later.
Good morning, everybody. This is Sheila.
Yeah, good morning, Sheila. We can barely hear you. Can you get a little closer to the phone, please?
I could probably yell louder too if you'd ask Steve that, but I'll get closer.
I know you can yell louder.
You probably can hear me sometimes. Yes, the quote that you have in front of you is for the laptop computer. And that is something, Terry's battery, it had died, and Barb checked everywhere, they don't even make them anymore. So we did get her a new laptop. And that's the price for it. And I was just talking with these gentlemen here before we started. You know, I think at our annual board meeting, I think we should maybe go up to maybe $1,000 or something for special 28E board meetings. I know that, I believe it's at $5,000, we have to get the board approval, but I like to at least get the approval as well for anything over 500. So I don't know, just something for us, I think, to really consider at our next meeting. If we want to just, you know, if there's something that I need to get, a laptop, I mean, obviously if it's broken, we need one, you know. But if that's something where we could approve, or if it's, you know, over $1,000, then we call a 28E conference board meeting, you know, to approve that. Any discussion on that, or?
Well, anymore, to me, it's day-to-day operations. I mean, it's like having a telephone on your desk. You know?
Oh, yeah, I mean, you need the computer just, you know, in your right hand. You know?
Right. I mean, it's,
And I shot the email to Bob and Rick stating we need it really bad, and Bob replied back, yep, okay, and Rick, maybe you didn't get the email, but so we did go ahead and order it, but I just still get the full board's approval. So.
Yeah, I got the email, Sheila, and I thought I had talked to you and told you it was all right. That's fine. And I didn't hear what the comments were on the Mitchell's side there, but my interpretation, Sheila, is that, you know, the two chairpersons, one from each county, you know, the executive committee, and a purchase that size, that if you have the approval of those two individuals, then it's fine. But I appreciate the fact that you keep both boards aware of what's going on, no matter what the dollar amount.
Yeah.
I think it's just a courtesy thing.
Yeah, we agree with that too, Rick.
Okay, and so, okay, so we're kind of thinking then, yeah, as long as both chairs of the boards approve and agree, it'll be okay, but I'll still let both the boards know what went on.
Sure, yeah. So, Rick, is the chairman over here. Who's the chairman over there this year?
Stan Walk.
Dan, okay, all right, good enough.
Yeah, you can't write.
And so Mitchell's the,
Motion in, Sheila, to approve?
I'd make a motion in Mitchell County to approve the purchase of the new laptop.
That's
Was that you, Joe?
Yes, Joel Volklander. Yep.
Okay, Joe moved. I have a second on this side by Jason Byrne. I'll proceed with the roll call vote on this end. John, Jason, Steve, and myself. 4 ayes on Chickasaw.
Volklander,
Aye.
Morrell,
Aye.
Walk, aye. 3 ayes on this end.
so the way you're probably going to record that is each county's vote was aye, correct?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, excellent. Just a few more things, can I share a few more things, just updates? Marcy Hubert, who is our secretary for the 3 days a week in her office, gave me her resignation the day I got back from vacation in December. But did give me 2 months' notice, the middle of February, she'll be leaving. Her husband got a job up in St. Cloud, Minnesota, where their family is. Very disheartening. Marcia has done a wonderful job. However, I have been advertising in the papers for someone else to fill her position. We've gotten several applications. The cutoff date will be this Friday, so I'll get through all those and do some interviews and touch base with you with that as well down the road. With case management, IME, the Medicaid enterprise for the state, had gone through and audited some billings for targeted case management way back to fiscal year 2010, and they found some claims that were paid because we need to get authorized units before we can provide them and bill them. And apparently some were billed, like maybe 4 units were authorized, 6 units were billed, and IME paid them. So it's about $1,000 in Chickasaw County. Some counties have quite a bit. The statewide, they found $250,000 was overbilled, overpaid, which $150,000 of that was DHS. But they want to recoup that money. So, and that was just one portion of clients that we serve. I foresee another audit coming through where they're going to try to reclaim some more money. So just to give you a heads up on that, we're gathering information. There's a couple that we found that we disagree with, so we'll try to do that fight with them and not let them take that money back. But I just wanted to give you a heads up on that, and it's something that I may even get my advisory board involved in if needed, because it's kind of ridiculous the way they've done this, I think, you know, and as well across the state too, a lot of agreement in that. Also with the Affordable Care Act and that kind of stuff, health homes, they have begun already, and in March the health homes for the mentally ill are going to start being developed across the state. And how this will affect case management is anybody who receives funding from Magellan, and so that would be people with a chronic mental illness, will automatically be enrolled in a health home, but they do have the option to opt out. So if they're enrolled in a health home, they're automatically disenrolled from targeted case management. Our biggest concern for some people are the ones who work like in a training center, receive supportive employment to maintain their job. Apparently, Magellan does not plan to oversee that and fund that. So if they don't have a targeted case manager, it will be 100% county funding. So in our agency, and even through our county case management through ISAC, I asked Deb if she could come up with a letter for us to certainly share with providers and clients, letting them know that they do have a decision in this, and if there's a situation to where they're going to be losing services, they really need to discuss that with their case manager or someone. So I just wanted to give all of you a heads up on that as well, because I hate to see people losing services, and I really hate to see the county as well having to pick up costs, because that's what could happen. So to let you know that that's kind of going down, but we're, you know, hopefully on top of it, you know, and try to do things to help keep, the main thing is to have our clients make an informed decision. I think for some, I think it will be fine. You know, if they don't work right now, some just don't want to work. I think, you know, if Magellan wants to manage all of their services, that's fine. But for some of our people, I think it's really important they continue with targeted case management. So anyway, to let you know about that. And if it was confusing, sorry. If you have any more questions, give me a call. Any other questions or anything in regards to case management?
Not on this end, I don't believe.
None here.
I don't have any. None here.
Okay. Okay. That's it for me then.
Okay, Sheila, you're still on the agenda for this afternoon with us?
Oh, yes I am. 1 o'clock, right?
Okay, yep. Be looking forward to that.
Well, thanks. Yep, I'll see you at 1. And that's for my CPC and GA budget, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yep. Oh, and really quick while you're here too, everybody, I suppose. I left Pat Wagman a message yesterday. Have you talked to him, Rick?
I've asked him a couple times and he hasn't said anything.
Oh, is that your attorney?
Yeah.
2080?
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't looked at it yet?
No. Well, so we may have to talk about this and just do something else, okay?
Yeah.
Just to let you know.
Yep, all right.
So, okay.
I find that the 2080
We've
should
got
be
another
less sitting
appointment. Is
down.
there anything else that needs to come before these two boards?
We have nothing.
All right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion at this end.
A
Bob?
motion on this end by John Anderson to adjourn.
Okay, second.
And Bob Morrell here, second.
All right.
Either way.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All
Fair.
ayes on this end to adjourn.
All eyes.
All eyes on this end.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, you bet.
Well, we're ready for you.
Oh, already am. Thought I was early.
You kinda are, but
We don't care.
Okay.
we're running through it fast.
From the senior
All times
center,
are approximate.
and we got $12.50 last year, and thank you for that. This year we got an air conditioning system that's going. It's 20 years old. We get replaced. I kind of put it all down in writing for each one here. And I think the operation, summary of the operations of our senior center. I don't know how well each of you know about the senior center, but we had an increase of 4 years of home delivery. That was where our increase. We stayed even with the people coming in, so I'd like to go up to 1,500 this year on money, so that'd be very helpful to get us our air conditioner, so.
Well, and you do a good service, I mean, you help keep people in their houses
Right.
and
It's-
A lot of people enjoy the meals quite.
did St. Ansgar put in anything yet?
I haven't heard anything from them.
What do they normally,
We
1,000?
usually give them
All
the
the
same
same.
thing.
Well, same thing.
That's what we've been doing the last few years.
5, 6 years.
Yeah, it's a good service, and I've never heard anything bad about it.
Okay, yeah, that's what I've been pushing is the home delivery. It seems like the people that can go get around and drive around and can get to cafes and that, they come once in a while, but the home delivery, they're the regulars, so that's about.
Well, we won't make any promises today until we put this all in the
I
budget.
understand
but,
very much. You've got quite a job ahead of you on
But,
everything, so.
We'll put this in, and if there's any changes or that, we'll let you know one way or the other. and-
Okay, good enough.
In the past, we've always been able to do it, so
Okay,
hopefully this year will be the same,
okay,
but, you're on the list.
okay, thank you.
Thanks for coming in, Jeff.
And if you guys have no objection, we'll put St. Ansgar down right now too,
Yeah,
for the
that's
same,
fine.
so it's in the
Right.
budget at least.
They usually send something, though, don't they, know, notice?
Sometimes.
They usually send a letter or something.
Yeah.
But we gotta have something in order to send
Maybe
anything.
some, yep.
So,
I don't know who's the.
Mary Kleinworth,
Okay, yeah, I know Mary.
do you wanna give her?
Yep, I'll get ahold.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Have a good
Thanks for
day.
coming
Thanks,
in.
Jeff.
How you like our new courthouse here?
Hey, very good. Kind of cramped you in together here,
It's a little
didn't
tight, but it's cozy.
it?
Works for now.
Yeah.
No privacy areas, but the,
Thanks, I'll have got copies of yours. Have some, I can make copies for it.
Sure, for everybody.
Here she is.
Oh, would you mind making one for me too, please?
Sure, be glad to.
I may be so bold with your hands.
You're not bold. Bright, but not bold.
I'm not sure about that either.
I'll
copies on the other miscellaneous budgets. I'll also talk about the mental health budget a little bit. Because that's kind of the easiest, but a little nuance and complexity to it. All we're budgeting in the mental health budget will be, I'm budgeting $2,000 for the mental health advocate, because that has to be paid through payroll. So you'll see budget amounts for that, HIPERS, and Social Security related to the advocate. And then the only other budget line item for that is the purchase administration. And that's the allocation that Mitchell County will make to the consortium. I'm budgeting $750,000 on that line item, but what I anticipate your levy to be, and again, this is the big political question of the year for the MHD world, is will the state fund the $47.28 per capita? And I'm a little concerned that ISAC is not lined up with this priority. They were actually arguing against the $47.28. The $47.28 per capita region-wide puts us in a very strong, predictable position. So we like the $47.28. What I'm concerned about is if the legislature gets distracted from that whatever allocation they come up with will not be as generous as the $47.28. I think what Bill Peterson is saying is there's a few counties that are just looking at themselves alone where their levy is well above the $47.28. And if they're not in a region or if they're not in a group and they have to sustain themselves, they'll have to reduce their property tax so low that they won't be able to sustain their current funding. But I think those problems should be addressed separately from the whole, because what we've proven region-wide is on average that $47.28 is enough to sustain. And then as our group, we have about 6 or 8 counties that have, as Mitchell County has been able to reduce their property tax. Everybody else has been held harmless, so nobody's had to increase property tax. So if you're below the $47.28 with your current levy, you stay there. And then the equalization dollars that we're wanting the legislature to allocate is based on making up the difference between where those lower counties are and the $47.28. For us, that's over $1 million we would make up in what we're calling equalization. The price tag for the legislature is about $29 million to fill that gap. But $11 million of that is property tax reduction. So it's really only $18 million new dollars to the service system. So if you have an opportunity to talk to your legislators or talk to Bill Peterson, you might want to let him know that we support the $47.28. Again, that $47.28, the dollars aside, it sets a benchmark so that when we go back to the legislator each year, we can argue from that $47. We don't have to say, oh, we're broke again, we need more money. We can argue for inflation factor on that, or, it's just a place to begin the argument. Counties have never had a number before. It was always not enough, not enough. And then many counties had too much. And then the legislature was always, well, what is it? You got too much or not enough? So we haven't set a very consistent message. That's the mental health budget. Questions, concerns? Does that make sense?
This is where your money comes from, the mental health budget.
Yes.
Right.
Is the consortium.
Yeah, there's always been concerns since we started it.
There's been a lot of what?
Concerns. I mean, look, ever since I've been on this board, it's always been a fight every year. I mean, like you said, you had too much money and you wouldn't get any from the state, and then you had to spend down. And I don't understand all these other counties why they're not on board with this at all. I mean, to me, it seems it's a no-brainer going forward.
Yeah, and you heard the consortium board. Everybody on the consortium board gets it and buys into it. So,
right.
So
Some of them, it's like, oh yeah, you know?
Yeah, once you understand it,
Right.
yeah.
So I don't understand why any of these counties would still want to go on their own.
It's,
Unless they had the 400,000 population, maybe that's the difference there, but, or the 300 or whatever it is, the number.
yeah, well, if you look at that region, you know, Lynn County's gotten a lot of attention, but now they're going into a region with Dubuque and Johnson County. They're gonna be golden with the 4720, they're very, very large, and so they're gonna be just fine. I think Polk County is fine with the 4728. I talked to Deb Shildroth from Story County after that hearing. I said, are you hearing of counties that are not liking the 4728? She says, well, no, that works for us. So I'm afraid there's a vocal minority that ISAC is representing, and I don't think they've wrapped their head around how important the 4728 is.
The southern counties?
I really don't know. I really don't know where it's going to
Low population counties is what I'm asking?
Well, again, I don't think it's even relates to low population. I think it's just, it might be those counties that had such a high levy that all they're seeing is that levy's gonna go away, that they're gonna have to reduce their levy. And they don't know how they're gonna backfill it or how they're gonna adjust to that.
States that they backfill it.
Exactly. And the idea is you join a region, so you equalize that. So the reason that Mitchell County isn't, even though you're gonna save, you're reducing property tax by
$100 and some thousand.
yeah, let's get that number out there.
Well,
Where is that?
that's the only sorry part of that, we've been
Probably gave it to Lowell.
levying that all along.
Exactly.
And, yeah, we're gonna get a property tax reduction, but all these other counties are gonna get backfilled on theirs now. They're actually making money, but in the years going forward now, they may not like it too well if they have to raise property tax to get the 4728 or whatever it is.
Right.
But then that's on their part of it. I mean,
Right.
they're getting backfilled this year, and I don't know what next year's gonna be, but, or I should say in 14. In 13 was it, they were getting backfilled.
Yeah.
But then there's some, if I read it right in the paper, that they're not quite sure the state's put enough money in the pot to backfill everybody,
Well,
or have they?
you can't make up this argument. I was at the legislative hearing on Friday, and you have legislators in the department saying there's deadbeat counties that are not paying their Medicaid bills. And then there's counties saying, well, we would pay our Medicaid bills if you'd give us transition money. So we're talking about taxpayer money. If you give us money, then we'll give you your money back. Everybody wants their money, but there isn't a real strong sense of partnership that we're in this together. That's what we need to get over. But the department put out 3 numbers based on the 32 counties that applied. See, the transition fund is a separate argument from the equalization dollars. The equalization dollars are going forward next year and the year after. The transition fund is about this year. What do we need to do to help counties just get through this year? The high number they gave was $11 million, which is well below the $20 million that we thought it was going to be, or could have been. But then they said based on other criteria, we could recommend 3.4 million. Correct me if I'm getting the numbers wrong. And then their last assessment was, well, if we really looked at this, then it's 1.2 million. And so guess what their recommendation is, the 1.2 million. Well, that continue. The counties that are struggling are still gonna, with the $1.2 million, are still gonna, even if they'll be okay in the long run, they're still gonna have cash flow issues, because when you rely on property tax, it only comes in 2 times a year, and where do you get the cash to operate? So there's just a, you know, and then there's a perception that some county managers don't really know where they're at financially, and so there's obviously an element of distrust in there too, which doesn't make the argument any better. Just so you know, our consortium has not applied for any of the transition funds, so we're out of that debate. I was the co-chair on that transition committee, and we are now, I gave the final report on Friday, so I'm officially done with that. But I'm sure the argument about the money will go on. So that's probably more than you want to know about the mill. 4728, that's all you need to know about it. That's all we went this year, 4728. Okay. The general assistance budget.
Community services, right?
Community-
Number 12.
Number 12, yeah, community services. This budget, we build in 100% of Marcia Moore's salary and expenses. And then it's out of this budget that we bill, or will bill 50% of this administrative cost to the Mental Health and Disability Fund, the County Social Services. I think that's in
Yep.
Sorry. Sheila will reimburse 40% for the target case management support services that Marcia provides, and only 10% will remain an obligation to the general fund. So we'll have offsetting revenue for 90% of that, $43,561. Okay.
Say that again?
You will have offsetting revenues of 90% for the $43,561 administrative costs. 50% will come from county social services, 40% will come from Chickasaw Mitchell target case management. Now, from a logistical standpoint, Sheila and I have had some conversations. We could actually allocate within our budget, we could actually move these salary costs into the MHD budget, the 50%, and we could create a target case management budget for 40%. Is there any more talk about the case managers, or is that?
Oh, yeah, there is. It'll happen. It's just kind of slow.
Okay.
But yeah, the plan is by July 1st, Bob.
Okay, so if we do that, we could move that percentage of these salaries out of the general assistance program, and we could allocate the 50% right into, so when Jane is doing the payroll, instead of allocating it all here, we go ahead and allocate it to those various departments. Yeah, but that's, you know, it's not relevant to approving the budget. I think we can do that, you know, from just an accounting standpoint. If you're okay with that in principle. Okay. So then the next page is just the service budget. General assistance is not a big budget, but it certainly is an essential kind of gap filler for some folks who are challenged in the short term or are waiting for disability. So we're budgeting this year for $500 under medical and dental. We haven't had much utilization this year. That's primarily emergency extractions is where we see a gap for some folks. We're budgeting $200 for food and provisions. Again, the food bank and food stamps do a very good job. You could probably strike that and we would be okay, but just trying to have a little flexibility in our budget in case unforeseen circumstances present. And then the biggest demand obviously is utility and rent. We're budgeting $5,000 for rent. We spent $2,000 so far this year, and then we're budgeting $10,000 for utilities. That's a little bit less than we budgeted last year.
You want us to reestimate that?
What's that?
You want, I see you got that in the reestimate, do you want that or not?
Well, it doesn't make much, yeah, Marcia, I apologize,
Just cross that out.
yeah, there's no point in doing that, because we're gonna be short on the funeral side anyway, so we should
Okay.
just probably amend, reestimate where we need to increase.
Okay.
So I don't know if that lower, maybe it's global warming that's reducing
There you go, Mike.
so maybe that's we're getting some payoff there, I don't know. I was actually preparing my taxes, and I noticed my personal utilities went down about $500 over last year, so I think that, you know, there must be, you know, the warmer winter certainly takes some pressure off that budget. So obviously, a year forward, who knows what to anticipate there. The funeral services is an area that we continue to get pressure on. We spent $7,000 already this year. We're only budgeting $10,800 for next year because we think that this is kind of a blip, because historically we haven't had that many. But that's where we're at. Larry did present to me the VA proposal for funeral changes, and I don't know where the board is on that. If you went forward with that dollar amount, I think the policy looks good. If you went forward with that dollar amount, we'd have to obviously adjust significantly. I think he's talking about a $2,500 from the current $1,800 that we allow. So if you've got any direction on that, I can.
What did he put on it? He just put 2,500 in his one funeral.
Something like that.
Yeah. Funerals is, I mean, it's clearly a service that the funeral homes do for counties, and Mitchell County, as relative to the other counties, is quite generous. We're at $1,000 in Blackhawk, $1,000 in Floyd, I think $800 in Webster. Do you know where Chickasaw is?
1,500.
1,500. I think Butler's at about, I want to say, right in there, 1,300 to 1,600.
I'm thinking we're at 18.
Yeah, we're at 1,800, yeah, that's what I say. So to go to 2,500, that will put us, you know, you could also make it, and some counties have differentiated between the VA burials and the GA burials, and I don't think that's unreasonable either. We can certainly adhere to the same policy and have a different award amount. So, I mean, that's clearly the board's decision, but if you want to let me know what your intent is, we might need to adjust the budget if you're going to go up on that.
So how many are you planning for at 1,800?
At the 10,800, well, that what is the math on that?
Less than 5.
Yeah.
So we get some partial burial.
6. That's 6. Yeah, and you know the norm was was 2 to 3. In 2012, we actually didn't have any. So it's a very
Got a lot more Chickasaw this last year too.
yeah,
If it is.
yeah. I think
Financial status maybe, or.
We're all moving towards the edge.
well, it is aging population, and I
Yeah.
suppose that's probably true. It's probably demographic. The next budget is the substance abuse 53. We're going to have to reestimate. We're over this year. She put 3,500, but I think she means increase at 3,500. Because I think
So
she's got.
So it should probably be just 500 then.
Well, I think it should be. I think about 6,500 is what I'm thinking.
Oh,
And then that's unless you have, if you have room in that area, you take it off a different line if you don't need to. But again, this is for detox, medical detox for those folks that are uninsured and meet our income criteria. Again, we go several years without having one. We pick them up on the mental health budget if at all possible. So if it's a dual filing, or if there's any way we can justify it out of the mental health budget, we will do that. The other factor there is with healthcare reform slated for January 1st, that that should be a very minimal obligation. The presumption is people will have some form of insurance after January 1st, and so we should be as exposed on that line item going forward. And then budgeting just a little for sheriff transport of a substance abuse commitment and $400 for legal representation for those unable to pay for their representation. Okay. Next item is juvenile court services. The 2,600, I think that's been fairly stable. I think that's kind of a consortium allocation as I understand it. The next item, the legal and court-related services, we've never budgeted there, but we had the $7,153. That we are going to submit to the Mental Health and Disability Fund and reimburse for that. That was specifically for psychiatric evaluation. The mental health fund would pay for any county that sent somebody to Oakdale for pretrial evaluation. So I think that the services that were provided were similar to that and should be the responsibility of the mental health fund. So again, Lola and I will have to figure out how to. We may still have to amend and then adjust the revenue and to get that taken care of. And then the court-appointed. I always get confused. There's kind of two allocations we do. I always get confused. I think there's one that actually we have a hold harmless allocation for juvenile representation, and then that we pay the state, and then I think there's that other line item is the one that we pay to the Cedar River as part of the consortium. Yeah. And then Family Protective Services, that $12,000 is for the non-state share of shelter care. That has been very low this year, which is a very positive thing. But so we're just kind of budgeting worst case scenario. We're budgeting it by, I don't know that we even need to have that Blackhawk County shelter separate. We were budgeting it by provider, but I wonder if we just put that on one line item and then just any providers pull that out. I really think that 12,000 is probably.
So just take the 2,300 off.
I would. Okay. And then the 5,000 is for Toledo, the state juvenile home in Toledo. Chickasaw County hasn't had anybody there in my history. That level of care is for a child that was taken into foster care and not able to be supported in foster care because of behavior or complex needs. And so then the court sends them to state juvenile home. That cost is about $180 per day. Butler County last year had 2 individuals go there, and so they spent over $80,000 on that line item. Our consortium board, County Social Services, has talked about bringing that service under the MHD program, and then in which case you wouldn't have to budget for it. Then Fund 10 would take liability for it. The state has approved that as a psychiatric mental health related expenditure. So again, if we get to 4728, I think we can offer that to the region without too much risk. The next item is the juvenile detention services, and again, that's a hard thing to predict with extraordinary circumstances we've had. So we're amending to $35,760 for this year, and we'll assume there'll be some resolution early into next year. So we've got $15,000 on that line item. Alrighty. That's it. The general assistance budget is is predicated on this award list. You last endorsed it in 2012. So at this point, we seem to be meeting most needs at those award limits, so we will probably continue that in those eligibility criteria. So just so you know what our basis of providing assistance is. Another county social services issue is I visited with Clayton, Alameda, and Winnesheek yesterday. You know, they're kind of off in the corner there. They had conversations with Buchanan and Bremer and believed that they were putting a region together. That's not working for them. So they invited me over to, and actually Clayton and Winnesheek formally did pass resolutions to formally request admission to the County Social Services Region. Alameda, and we have the new chairman of the County Social Services right here. And Al McKee is going to meet in special session on Thursday. So it's going to be a question for our board. You know, have we gotten too big, or is there a fit for 21? After my conversation and looking where they are financially and their management, there's certainly no risk financially to their joining. They're well managed. They've got a good service system. They were very positive. They're not coming to us running away from anything. They just really have decided that the county social services would be the best option for them if we're open to that. If we did not allow them in, then they would be forced to connect with the south or the central east region, which is actually larger from a population standpoint than we are. But like I like to say, is we'll have the most acres of any other region. So I just want you to be thinking about that. I really don't know. The board at our December meeting was kind of, this is it. We like 18. You know, they asked me, was there anybody else thinking about joining? And at that time, nobody had. And so this is fairly recent development. So if you have any thoughts on that, or
Well, it's not like they're across the state, you know, they do join us. I guess I don't know anybody from over that way, but.
yeah, I'm trying to think. They are connected with us through the North Iowa Juvenile Detention Center, so they have an investment there. They were working very closely with Howard and Fayette, so we kind of took part of their region when we took Howard and Fayette. So this kind of puts them back whole, and they had a pretty strong working relationship. And that mental health center in Decorah, then we would have their catchment area too. They would kind of be whole in this, and so they're very supportive of that.
So what services are provided over in that direction that we could tap into, so to speak?
They have some strong, actually they have some strong autism services. There's been some neat pilot projects out there. They've also, they also were awarded, maybe you know more about this than I do, Sheila, the Child System of Care.
Yeah, yes, I went there to actually visit it, the state in trying to provide better services to children. They had a Systems of Care contract. I'm not sure if it's still going. I think it is. But it's just a great service to really coordinate services for children. I mean, any child with a disability of any kind, they can qualify for it. And you have a nurse, a social worker, and it's just a great system. It's helped keep a lot of kids in their home. And that's what the Children's Work Group, that's what they're really, they want to get that going statewide, is Systems of Care, just to be able to provide that whole array of services to kids to help keep them in their home, in their community. So, yeah, Decorah was awarded one of them.
Yeah. The other connection I noted was, I think Alan McKee and Clayton both still have their county care facilities. And so, you know, they talked about how, you know, how we can position them in the future, because there's a lot of pressure under, and I really think Mitchell County is the model. We've moved them, or are moving them into full Medicaid reimbursement and making them a very viable provider going forward. And so I think, you know, giving them a stronger network too would be a real plus.
Winnebago and Alameda are part of our county district too, so.
Oh, are they? The county,
That's
oh,
right.
from the,
Right.
from
District two.
ISAC.
Yeah,
Well, maybe ISAC. would
Clayton
listen-
isn't,
would listen
but
to
the
it.
other two are, yeah.
You're right, they are on the juvenile detention board then. I go down there, I do.
I don't know if is it Larry or Ron, maybe
Larry.
Ron.
Larry from, well, we're the,
Clayton is Larry, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think, didn't Ron, he didn't run again, I don't think. Or one of them was off.
Well, Winnebago has got 4 new supervisors. I don't know if you heard that. There was,
And the other one's fairly new.
yeah, John, yeah.
So 4 out of 5.
Yeah,
Well, the one that was on the juvenile detention board, the big guy, I think he didn't run again, so he.
oh, okay,
I
so
can't
there's gonna
remember
be
what
a
his name
new
is.
member then.
I had the sheet with me, I could pick him up.
Yeah. So I think that's, and that, because the juvenile detention is doing the crisis stabilization, I mean, that's kind of a real nice connection too.
Well, getting back to that board, I don't know, you know, whether it's 15, 17, 18, 19, or 21, or 25 counties. I've not seen anything that hasn't worked yet. And, you know, and I think it's I kinda like it when, you know, everybody gets together, you know, CPCs and everybody, you know, and I don't see what would be the hurt in taking on 3 more counties.
Good, good.
Do
Well, that,
you? I mean,
no, I don't. I'll be very supportive of it, but I just kind of felt uncomfortable because of a few board members had said, you know.
well, I think they're worried about it. You're gonna get so big that you're gonna lose control.
Right.
But
We don't have control to begin with.
Gee, Bob, don't tell us that.
Oh,
We
I'm
thought-
sorry.
We thought you had control. We're
Sheila's
just-
got control.
I don't know, Bob has one.
But it has, I mean, and I think everybody that's, you know, when we started out with 5 counties, we saw how well that worked. I mean, and I'm assuming that, I haven't heard anything to the contrary.
Yeah, it's really been, it's been a lot of fun for me, as everybody comes in, and Jan, our partner over in Alameda and Winnebago, she's very excited about doing some peer support stuff, and so she already knows kind of what specialty that she wants to
They
bring.
do peer support there.
Yeah, yeah, and we have a real, you know, there's a real gap, nobody else is doing that in the region, so.
And I see everybody coming together and they're all bringing a little bit different things and, you know, and if you're in the region, well.
It's something too, I think, you know, I mean, the majority of their services are accessed, you know, with Mason City, with Blackhawk County too, and yeah, I think that's really,
It's kind
this
of.
makes sense. Bremer County will be the interesting one, I think.
You think
Yeah.
they'll come this way? Well,
I don't
no, they're
know.
gonna be landlocked, aren't they?
No,
Or-
it's allowed Buchanan.
Yeah, they're connected, the committee actually, you know, you have to be contiguous, and the committee did say that if you touched any way that you're considered contiguous, you can, and again, I'm speculating, I don't have any knowledge, but Buchanan does use the Abbey Center out of Cedar Rapids, so it makes sense that they would join that other group. And if Bremer and Buchanan have built a relationship, it would make sense that they would go. So that's what I would anticipate happening. As far as the rest of our boundaries, our southern boundaries, the central Iowa counties seem to be forming, and they're in place, so I don't see any play there. And out west, I think they've all made their commitments, and so I think that's firm there too. So I really think these are the only counties that are kind of left. Legally, if we don't do anything, and they don't do anything, April 1st, the director of the department will decide where, you know, orphans go or folks left out. You know, so the county just throws up their hands and says, we'll just do what we're told to do. But that's the worst case scenario. We don't want somebody joining, dragging their feet. We didn't want to be here to begin with. And,
Right.
and I didn't, and that's really what I was going to hear yesterday, and I didn't hear any of that. There was real, you know, they have really educated themselves. They all got the 4728 thing. I mean, they were on board with that. they've really invested a lot of time in understanding the system, so they knew this is what they wanted to do, so I was very impressed with kind of their commitment to helping us moving forward, what they can do for us and what we can do for them, so it was very positive. So. Well, anything else going on?
Well, Barb had some concerns on county care budget, didn't she?
I frankly haven't wrapped my head around it yet, but what needs to happen there is that budget needs to stand alone. That should not draw any property tax burden at all. So if our reimbursement rates are not high enough to get them to break even, we need to renegotiate those rates. The other option, and frankly, I just, I didn't look into it close enough, but at the end of last year, we should have done a cost report, and we should have done a cost settlement if they were short, and I don't know if they were, or
Well,
how
you want
much
to
they
look
were.
into that a little more, Bob?
I sure will.
Okay.
I sure will.
Short right now. Or
There's-
it was better for a month or so ago, now it's went the other way again.
Yeah. It's hard to sort out cash flow from losing money. Because they get behind on there, because the Medicaid is a complex billing process. They could have, $100,000 in IOUs out there, in
Yeah.
bills on.
I think there's developed a gap, and it should really be monthly or quarterly. I would think they should be getting something. I think there just needs a little more attention on that.
Yeah, because Medicaid is pretty good on paying its claims. It's really bad on its cost settlement reports. That, with case management, that can take forever.
Is
But
it something that we need to do similar to like case management, where you have your fund? I mean, you have your, we try not to fall below a certain amount, and then you always get reimbursed. I mean, is that something that we need to do for those folks out there?
Yes. Yeah, and I thought we were trying to do that. Maybe we haven't done it formal enough. And I think a lot of it is just, for Peggy, it's a whole different mindset to run a business than to operate from a budget. So she's used to, I've got this much to spend, and if I stay under that, then I'm okay. Now it's, if I don't generate this much, then I don't have it to spend. That's a whole different world than
It's like me, if you didn't bill, you didn't have any money.
Exactly. Yeah, a businessman gets that right away.
That's the first thing you want to do. And then
Right.
you want to be thoughtful about, you gotta have some money in reserve, because you aren't gonna,
Somebody's gonna like not getting paid.
some have that, and some people are slow paying.
Yeah.
It's just, and some people, you can't get out the door without they want to stuff money at you.
Yeah, so CSS has to, and that's not unique to Mitchell County. Any public entity within county social services is treated that same way. And we're kind of doing with our mental health centers too. We're doing, we'll probably be entertaining a significant allocation to the Tama County Mental Health Center. They're trying to do a conversion and get back on their feet, and that's probably going to take $150,000 to get them going. But these are our partners, and they're providing an essential service, and Mitchell County has done everything we've asked of them in terms of Medicaid, and so we're there. So it's just a matter of getting the mechanics to work. The County Social Services Consortium should end this year with about, we think about $7 million, and we're talking about setting $5 million as our kind of our, not to spend below that's going to be our cash flow, our restricted reserve. And then if we have some other money, we'll start talking about, these kind of reinvestments and how can we improve the service system. I think we need to be really careful not to make this program another opportunity to build up big fund balances. I think our challenge is to have good financial management and make good investments in the future system. But if we have money, I think we need to figure out how to help our member counties. And so like Toledo is the one thing we've talked about. I've also advocated that the state allow us to use MHD dollars to fund detox and other substance abuse related things. And even we could look at the shelter, the cost of the non-state shelter care. Those are the kind of social services obligations we could probably add a component of management to and give some relief to the general fund. That kind of where everything gets bottled up. So
It's kind of exciting to see how it's going to play out in the years ahead, isn't it?
it is. A lot of change. This is going to be a crazy year with healthcare reform. So a lot of opportunities, a lot of scary stuff.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, Healthy Harvest.
Should I get these sheets to Barb?
Wow.
Good. Well, that's cool.
Good morning.
Morning. About how long is the presentation?
Well, how much time do I have? 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Sorry for being late. Lowell advised me on your change of location, but I had that old location stuck in my head. Have you all
Is anybody
received-
there?
Well, that's what I thought. It's like, well, I guess I'll have quite an audience because there's not very many cars
Yeah, I
here.
shared
Okay.
what you sent, so thank you.
All right, very good. And so you should have seen a request letter. They gave a little bit of background about the specific dollar value and some of the producers in your area and markets in your area that have been engaged with us. There was also a piece, did I send this to you as well?
I think so.
This is a nice thorough piece. Yeah, it looks like you
Yep.
probably have had that.
Mhm.
It just sort of lays out the multiple benefits of local food system development, addressing a number of issues that rural communities are facing. So I won't send that around again. And then you may also have had a chance to look at our 2012 at a glance. I came and spoke with you a year ago when Healthy Harvest was just sort of getting going, and we had some general ideas. We have our set of priorities: producer support, expanded market development, consumer education, and marketing. And I've got extra copies of these. You can send those around. We pursued those, and we've kind of captured that on the banner. We worked on a number of workshops for producers, and you'll see that inside that handout. We had a focus on small business planning, on collaborative marketing. Very good response, 35 at one, 55 attended at the other workshop. Producers themselves continued to do some networking through some producer potlucks through the summer. One we held at Cheryl Elke's near St. Ansgar, and then traveled to Sugar Creek Farm, which is just outside, I think, of the Osage area here. And that's just a good building of collaboration between the producers. They have a lot to learn, a lot to share with each other. We put together the directory, which is listing farmers markets and producers themselves. I'm going to pass that around as well. We printed 25,000 of these and distributed them through newspapers and out through some libraries and some chambers of commerce. So if you open it up, you'll find the farmers markets all across North Iowa, and we are covering a 9-county area, with Mitchell being kind of on our eastern border, and we go all the way over to Kossuth and down to Franklin and Wright counties. And then inside, if you open that up, we have the producers listed by categories of product: vegetables, honey, maple syrup, fruit, baked goods, meat, poultry, and eggs. We have made a point to also list food buyers, because we need to talk about the whole system. And we've got some Hy-Vees listed with the auction house over in Algona, the Fresh Connections Co-op, and we've got some meat lockers listed as well. So we do have some of your constituents already involved in our activities through the potlucks, through the workshops, through the guide itself. We have been, yeah, so you know some of the other connections?
The Millers, yeah.
Good, good. We started this work with some funding for my position from a USDA grant that started in 2011 and will run through mid-September of this year. And we've gotten a good start. I feel like we have built connections with producers. We have provided some programming that they have been responding to, and want to continue to build that base. the experience across Iowa's regional food groups is that it takes some commitment and time to continue to build the capacity under this. If you want to look historically, you could really look back and say local food activity has been going on as long as we've had farmers markets, and those have tended to sort of operate a market here, a market here, a market here, and they're sort of responsible for their own governance and activities. And the individual producers have been interested in promoting their own farm. But in the early to mid-90s, there were some statewide organizations, particularly Leopold Center for Sustainable Agriculture and Practical Farmers of Iowa, that began to look at local food system development as a more complex strategy for economic development, community development, agricultural diversification. So Leopold really began to develop a strategy around a regional working, and that's sort of how we came into being a 9-county area. You were just talking about some other work in the county that works with some of the counties in the Northeast. Northeast Iowa has a pretty strong history with local food system development. Black Hawk County has a very strong history with local food development. We look at those counties and see how they've built partnerships and what the impact has been. The individual in Black Hawk County shared with me some of their numbers. They have 27 institutions that are buying local food, and they documented $3 million of local food purchases. Then you start to look at some of the multiplier effects related to that, and you realize we're talking about additional purchases in our counties, we're talking about employment in our counties. So you start to see the impact that this is not about hobby farming or small farms. This is about a diversification. They can have small farms. We also have folks who are making their livelihood at this. We have folks involved in this who are using this as retirement income, and we have new folks who are buying land and making a commitment to an enterprise that they hope to build their career on. So we have folks all across that spectrum. So as we end that USDA grant, we need to be in the position of building more breadth and diversity of our funding base. So I am coming and talking to all 9 counties across our region and inviting them this opportunity to invest in sort of this early stage work of local food system development. And in the letter, I articulate that we will look to engage additional producers from your county in our work. We hope to be documenting additional gross sales in local food. And I do have funding for, we are asking $1,000. We do have funding for a series of stakeholder meetings. And we will hold 4 of those around our region. And Osage was one of the communities that we had considered to hold that meeting. Our funding requires that we hold those by mid-March. So somewhere between mid-February and mid-March is when we'll have the meetings scheduled. We will be doing a fairly consistent theme between each of those meetings, looking at sort of who are the local producers in your community, tell us a little bit about their story. But we're going to bring an outside speaker, I think both, well, from a couple of different places, but Northeast Iowa and the Black Hawk County being one of those, to talk to us about what really are we meaning when we talk about local food system development? I mean, it's a mouthful, but it talks about complexities from production to processing to distribution, and all of those pieces come together, require diverse commitment of partners. I've been talking to economic development folks, public health, educators, because this is going to take all of us sort of looking at where we have sort of pieces of the pie and leverage support for each other. So that base of supervisory support and sort of dedicated commitment and sort of saying to the community, this is important. We see this side that has the economic development. It benefits the health and wealth of our communities. We will also be talking to some ag companies. We'll be leveraging producer support because they pay a membership to be in the guide, and I will continue to be doing grant writing. If you flip the guide over on the back, there's sort of a snapshot of the folks who have provided support. We have a matching grant from Ag Ventures Alliance, Hansen Foundation, a couple of banks, Hy-Vee, Hoover Hatchery, CLTEL, and you see some of the other institutions at the bottom, including Extension. So my goal is to continue to work with those partners and build those partners. There are a lot of places where your mission for what you need to do, meeting the needs of your constituents in Mission County, overlap with what we're trying to do. And across the region, there really isn't another entity that is looking at sort of a comprehensive strategic approach to local food development. So I think we bring something to you. I also bring over 15 years of being involved in this work, both as a producer, but also as sort of an educator organizer on the work, and have a lot of history with local food work in Iowa. There is precedent in Iowa for county support, and I bring a letter of support from Mel Hauser with the Potawatomi County. They have provided significant funding for local food coordination over the last number of years. So I asked him if he would be willing to share a letter of support, and so I bring that to you, and he offers, if you have any questions, his phone number and his contact. We've learned a lot over the last year, and we are focusing our efforts this year on collaborative marketing among growers, and then going to work some of other pieces within that. So last night I held the second meeting with producers, inviting them to come and talk about what does it mean to aggregate product, or how can we work together more clearly. And let me think, we had more folks than we had at the first meeting in December, which was wonderful. And where I first thought we were going to talk about you grow potatoes, you grow onions, you grow green peppers, and then we'll figure out how to market that together, we said we really think we need to start small. That's very complex to think about cooperating like that way. So we're going to cooperate really on marketing each other and the region more strategically, and each other's farms, which is a great way to start, and I think really gives us a platform to involve even more producers. We're moving from a fairly static website to a website with more searchable capacity, and we want to get more and more folks engaged in it. So I think we're off to a really great start. And the other point I have is, if you can come and decide to offer this support, you give us a little leverage as we go to other granting sources and other funders. So it becomes part of that whole discussion. So I will stop. I could go on, but I won't.
Well, as always, we put all of this into the system. We have Barb crunch the numbers. We see how we're coming with our budget, and right now we will not make a decision. We haven't with anybody.
Sure.
And so, but in the next couple, 2-3 weeks, will I?
It's a big deal. I mean, I see Metro counties in here, and some folks, and been to the farmer's market in Des Moines, and I don't know if we can't get that big, but.
Well, and that's one of the things is, I don't think we want to look like Des Moines, or necessarily can look like Des Moines, but there's a lot of capacity, resources, compassion, skill, resources that we can build on that's right here. And I'm really excited. It's sometimes a real challenge, because some of these communities have very strong regional retail centers, and they build their local food work particularly around there. That's not really the case across North Iowa. So I really think what we're working is trying to drive it out into the communities.
Right.
And I think that's a really great strategy, because I don't want this to become a food system that becomes centralized and sort of a premium. We want to make it accessible across the board for the health and wealth of our communities.
Good farmer's market in St. Louis.
Thursday afternoon, 4 to 7 or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I've been over to Riceville, and they have a farmer's market on Saturday mornings, I believe it is, and that's the same as out here.
Right.
But that's great. I mean,
Yeah, we want to increase visibility of those and increase access to other, the producers themselves and other outlets that they might choose. So, I don't think I
Thank you,
can.
Kay.
Thank you very much. The last thing I was going to say, as we come along with the development of these stakeholder meetings, I will be in touch, because I'd love to have you come. And if we do end up holding here in Osage, it will be all the more easy for you. Okay,
Great.
thank you so much. And thanks for my adjustment in your schedule.
Oh, that's fine.
All right.
Well, Lowell, is there anything else, or do we pretty much have outside of county fair? Anything else that we're doing aside?
Have anything to say? I don't care.
Get things worked out.
Well, if there's nothing else for the good of the cause, we will stand adjourned at 10:40.